Ruh-roh, Raven! We're running away on Rover! Do you get it? Because Scooby-Doo and monsters and you didn't laugh at all. You didn't laugh at all. I worked out on that all week. We're going to talk about that on the Spin Move iRacing Network. Well, in spite of my best efforts to make David lose it here on camera, here we are. Spin Move iRacing Network is going to present the Ghost Racing Cup Series once again. As Scooby-Doo told us in our intro, they are taking on Miles the Monster here at Dover. David, say hello to the internet.
Good evening, everybody. Here alongside Zach, and looking forward to talking all about the Monster Mile coming up here for the Ghost Racing Cup Series.
Yep, and since we're not in the mood for jokes, we're just going to get right into it. So, taking a look here at our Ghost 200 at Dover, there's been a huge emphasis this week on getting as much practice in for these drivers as possible leading up to this week, because to be truthful, this track is very difficult for those who think they're just going to walk right in here and tame Miles the Monster. We're going to go over track specs. We're going to talk about the increased emphasis on practice here at Dover. We're also gonna debrief with you here what makes for a good race at Dover, what might be the keys to victory here, and as we get towards the end of the show, we're always going to reveal our winners picks for this week as we hopefully rebound from the betrayal of Nathan Estep. Hopefully our picks actually race this week, David. So let's open it up. Let's talk about this very historical and very difficult racetrack. David, you want to walk us through what the specs of this monster looks like?
Okay, so looking at the Monster Mile, we have a 1 mile concrete track with 24-degree banking in the turns and 9-degree banking down the straightaways. So this track has a surface that is basically now completely unrivaled, with being the oldest surface in NASCAR, originally laid down in 1995. So, you're looking at the winter of 94, basically right at the start of 95 before the season happened. This track was laid down and switched from asphalt to concrete and hasn't been changed since. So definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts on concrete track versus the usual asphalt that we race, as well as kind of talking about what kind of line you have to run because of this definite transition in banking from 9 degrees all the way to 24 in these turns.
Yeah, absolutely. So this track has a lot of character, and we are going to find out very quickly that the concrete monster at Dover is styled in a way where it's very different, very drastic for these drivers to really tame throughout the course and of this race. And 200 miles here at Dover, it's going to be very taxing on these drivers. It is a racetrack that drives like a short track, because there's going to be a lot of off throttle time. There's going to be managing what you got underneath you through the duration of the run. Similar strategies as we would see through a short track event, but regardless, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But getting down to the characteristics of the racetrack, David, we're going to be experiencing different lines throughout the run here. If you want to be fast, you're going to have to hug that low line right next to the apron, especially in turns 1 and 2. That apron can really jump out and grab you. And we can't talk about Dover without mentioning how the banks of those steep how the steep bankings, I guess I should say, lend cars to drift up out of turns 2 and turns 4 and smack into those outside walls, which are notorious for damaging cars right away. Good thing about Dover, a quick note, David, is that this track is a self-cleaning track, so if you wreck, you're probably going to wind down in towards the infield. The key is to just miss all that as the chaos goes on in front of you.
right? And, you couldn't have brought up the fact better than I myself was going to bring up here in just a moment. Every time I run this track, coming out of turn two, turn four, whether it's the first lap, the 10th lap, or even later on in the run, I find myself at least once in that run finding one of those walls. So definitely some drivers. I think just about everybody in the field at some point is probably going to have a brush and definitely get a little mark from Miles the Monster here on Wednesday night. So looking forward to that. And hopefully, as you said, it will be a self cleaning racetrack as much as possible so drivers can try to stay clean and hopefully not get piled into a big wreck here at Dover.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we look forward into our points for today, let's move away from track specs and the notorious nature of this racetrack. We'll get back to how drivers can manage that later on here in the show, but I want to talk to our viewers very briefly about how there's been a increased emphasis on practicing this week and making sure you log in those laps at this racetrack. This league coming off of a difficult week in Richmond, being able to manage their stuff as well as they could in a difficult week where there was a lot of cautions, and the admins really want to make sure, and the owners really want to make sure, hey, we're going to put that to bed. We're going to have a great race on SRM, sponsored by ESPN, and there's been a large emphasis on practice. David, what are some of the things that these drivers are going to learn about the racetrack as they practice during the week?
So the great thing about this kind of practice session is that these league drivers get a chance to go out on the track and learn the track, but they also get an opportunity to work around the other drivers that they're going to be racing with here on Wednesday night. So anytime during the week, we could go hop on iRacing, open up Dover, and go practice by ourselves. But to have a practice session thrown up by the league admins or another driver in the league really gives you the opportunity to understand how your car is going to react around those other drivers, and then how those other drivers are going to react driving next to you. So this gives them a really good opportunity to kind of feel out and see how traffic and other things are going to affect their car come Wednesday night.
Yeah, and the good thing about this league is that it is trying to facilitate those group practice sessions. Like, get as many people out there as you can and push the car as hard as you can in a group, and know where your limits are. And I think that was a topic of conversation that was missed going into Richmond, that this league has done a really good job of emphasizing in their Discord. Hey, we want you out there on the racetrack. We want you to prepare. We want you to be in traffic more so than just the hour that leads before the race starts come Wednesday evening. We're going to talk about now the keys to a good race here at Dover. You and I are pretty experienced at this racetrack. We do struggle here sometimes, but there are other times where this monster is pretty kind to you and I. So let's talk about briefly what it takes to have a good race here at Dover.
So, Zach, the things that I'm looking for so that I have a good race is really early on, especially in that hour practice session, is to find my braking points and kind of learn, hey, do I need to go full brakes early on in the run? Probably not. So, easing off the throttle, trying to save some of those tire sets, which then sets me up for good pit strategies throughout this race. And especially a 200-mile race here at Dover, it's going to come down to making sure you have the right fuel. And of course, the tires on a concrete track can really get eaten up when you're sliding up those 24-degree banks.
Yeah, and I think a good key to this race is how drivers are going to be able to adapt, especially if this league does get a series of long green flag runs. I think this league has it in them this week to really facilitate long competitive runs at a very difficult track, especially in a week where they have emphasized practice, they've emphasized getting out there and logging your laps. When I look at this racetrack, one of the major things for me as a driver to take a look at is to go, at what point in the run am I going to have to adjust the line of the car? At what point in the run am I going to have to back up my braking zone and really kind of diamond into one and two, being able to kind of hook that bottom maybe a little bit more, and being able to carry just a little more momentum off of exit, make those back straightaway longer. And then 3 and 4, typically drivers run up high as the tires run out, and you're able to be well, catch your breath, I guess, a little bit up there as the run goes along, and your car just naturally stays up there. So it's going to be very tricky because uh, one of the hardest things as somebody who competes in iRacing is that when you have a long green flag run and you've just spent the last like 15-20 laps of a run really suffering, right? Really trying to get everything you can out of your car to get to the fuel marker. One of the hardest things to do is remember what your car drives like on fresh tires when you get back there on the racetrack. You totally forget how hard you can drive the race car. A lot of time is really going to be made up when drivers find out, when I exit pit road, I can race this thing really hard. And I think there's going to be some passes made that way this week.
I think you're absolutely correct there. But what I am really interested in seeing are maybe some of those drivers that understand, hey, if I don't make that hard run early on, maybe I can push this car an extra 5, 6, 7, maybe, 8 laps at most, I would think, on those tires and that fuel if they really try to save it in that early run. And maybe they'll have a little bit of speed later on as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if the cool thing about Dover is that if there is a race that has long green flag runs, you're almost guaranteed to find different fuel strategies. Undercutting is going to be another topic of conversation if that comes into play, and really we're going to see, I think, a good race out of these drivers that does facilitate good momentum into the next weeks to come. It's going to be a big confidence booster for a lot of these drivers who had a tough week at Richmond. You just want to put a whole race together. You just want to bring the car home. And I think a lot of drivers are mentally prepared to do that at this racetrack. Moving forward in our time together, David, let's talk about who we think is going to be the driver to beat this week. We were betrayed. We were betrayed last week. And Nate, we love you and we respect you as a racer. We're going to give you a lot of room probably when you go and pass us this week. But I can only speak for myself. I'm never picking you again. I'm never picking you to win a race again. And you've duped me once. I'm never picking you again. So with all that said, David, who's on your radar? Give us your pick and then maybe a dark horse.
Well, I can't say that I'm never picking Nate again, but this week I think I'm going with Kyle Spies. Watching him last week really saw some great things. And then I'm interested as a dark horse, maybe John Garrett, being so consistent and doing the great things that he does can make it up front again. So interested to hear your thoughts. Maybe we're on the same line again this week, maybe not.
What a storyline it would be to see John Garrett go back to back this early on and really assert himself as one of the more dominant figures in this league. But I am not on the same page as you are this week. I'm actually going to take a look at the Discord and see who's putting in a lot of practice time this week. And that would be Dylan McDonald. He is consistently asking, when's practice up? When can we get back out on the racetrack? I want to get better. And he posted a picture of his lap times the other day, and he was top of the charts. And he has been on the ball in terms of practicing and getting out there early. I think that practice is going to pay off for him. That in and of itself might be a dark horse pick, but if we take a look at the whole body of work, a whole week's worth of prep, I don't think Dylan's going to find himself being a underdog this week here in the Ghost Racing Cup Series. But my dark horse pick will probably come out of one of your two picks, and he's not really a dark horse. I'm picking Kyle Spees as a dark horse this week. Kind of a guy who has shown some flashes of brilliance early on in the season, and he very well could find his way up front. He's been practicing a lot too, so it'll be very interesting to see what those guys can do moving forward this week. David, any closing thoughts as we preview the Ghost 200 at Dover?
Really tough race ahead of these drivers here at the Monster Mile. Just again, this track race is very much like a short track. We're hoping to see that all drivers show that respect on track. And much like last week at Richmond, we expect there to be some incidents, but we hope that drivers have learned and keep a little bit more level head as we head over to Dover this Wednesday night.
Absolutely, and let's hope that Miles the Monster doesn't wreck too many cars, and even if he does, we're not solving any mysteries together because he won't play along. So, regardless, I hope you all tune in to SRM's broadcast of this event. This is going to be a wild one here at Dover, and I hope you're as excited as we are. For my partner David, my name is Zach, and until we meet again, remember to keep on racing.